All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to This Week in Base Hit. I am your host, Zubaz. I am joined by my man, Citizen Clone. Clone, how was your week?
It's all right, man. How you doing? I like that picture behind you.
Yep, postseason
Talking playoff
2024.
baseball. You
Uh,
ready to dig into playoffs?
we actually should have recorded earlier because we were already talking about playoff baseball. It's been crazy. The Dodger Padre series has been fun. The
Tonight.
Mets pulling it out against the Phillies, very unexpected. The Yankees, I wouldn't say they're beating up the Royals, but they're doing their thing. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah. I don't have any good commentary for it, but
The
how's
Padres
the game
Dodgers has
going?
been by far the most fun. I
It's
mean,
by far
you know
the
what's
game.
crazy? I forgot to reach out to you when it happened. So we talked previously about Jurickson Profar stealing that home run from Mookie Betts over that little half wall part of Dodger Stadium, and then hiding it. Betts getting almost all the way to third. The announcers are calling it a home run. The crowd's roaring, and then he shows it. And then the next day they were in, or the next game they were in San Diego, who also has one of those half walls. Mookie Betts hits it there again. Jurickson Profar goes back over the wall again, but this time he misses it. Mookie Betts now thinks Jurickson Profar did the same thing, and then curves after second and starts running into the dugout. And
Oh,
then he didn't have the ball, so he had to go back, but he was out of the baseline. I'm just kidding. He was out of the baseline, but they didn't call him out. They let him round the
man,
bases
that's
and
funny.
finish it. But I mean, what are the freaking odds of that happening in back-to-back
Yeah,
games?
that's pretty
It's
awesome.
madness. It's madness. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And during it, I thought he caught it too, because when I saw Mookie Betts running towards the dugout, I was like, oh, he didn't even look at him. Didn't even look at him. It was great. Even though Mookie Betts is, I think, inarguably the nicest baseball player, superstar out there. And I will always root for that man. I think he's just like the greatest locker room player, him and Willie Adames, probably in the league. Maybe Salvador Perez, who I mentioned on last week's podcast, too.
I got no judgment on any of this stuff. You ready to talk about our game?
Oh, all right. What are we
I
talking
haven't
about?
heard. No. I haven't heard. Well, you haven't given a world. You got any personal World Series?
I don't, man. I went on that big run and yeah, no, I got some playoffs coming up though. I got like five teams coming up. So you're gonna have to go through this again with me now that all these teams are getting back to the playoff time. So you're just gonna have to deal with it as we go forward if I make it to the World Series. I don't know. That was a hell of a run. Like 8 weeks in a row, I had a team in the World Series.
Padding your numbers. Well, I
That's
was thinking
wild.
about it because I was listening to our, should we say we're competitors? No. Listening to Jar's podcast, not at
Oh yeah,
all.
our
But
competing podcast
and
between two Sims.
he's been trying to do a run through of all the World Series winners each time, which is very, very honorable, even if it's a long list. But I think it's pretty cool. But I've been thinking that's what was thinking about because I've been working up towards us sending out a weekly digest for everybody every
Yeah,
week.
yeah,
And
that would be very
I
cool.
just and I wonder about like what people would want to hear about their teams each week or their franchise, but also like so I guess more generally thinking about like what your measure of success is, right? Because World Series is the most obvious and could totally like if you win a World Series, you want to get the report on that. You want to know how many times you've won the World Series and everything else. Do you really want to know about other people's World Series? I don't know. But
No,
like, what else? Go
you know
ahead.
what? So what I was going to say is like when I think about like what do I want to know from leagues I'm not in, and is going to be minimal, but it's going to be interesting in the like streaks. I'd be very interested to hear like when Hardy was on his 100 season playoff streak.
Yeah.
That'd be a cool thing to track ongoing. Like anybody in any league would be interested in that. uh like those big numbers that you like to pull out, the like
Oh
we
yeah.
talked last week about the hitting streaks, but also So streaks definitely one. Milestones would be another one. So if somebody like I posted in TCL a couple weeks ago that Mac hit his 1,000th um, or what was it, 10,000 season, and played. I think some stuff like that is kind of interesting. Or like our five
Yeah.
when we hit or 50 million games simmed. I don't know. I'm
I
just
think
I'm just throwing stuff at the wall, but those things are interesting.
I think that's a good list for hearing about other people. Thinking
Yep.
about you personally,
Oh, me
like
personally?
so there's well, like we had the other reason that was in my mind this week is because we had a bunch of people that apparently looked back at their user history this week and they were asking me to clean stuff up. And people
Yeah.
love looking at their user histories.
Yeah.
Like so there's
I have
have the
one.
rings, but
Yeah.
then what
Sorry.
else? What else? Like what do you value the most? Or do you look at other people's user histories? Like there's wins,
I'll
there's
tell you what I value the most
okay.
for like for me, it's actually like individual player success.
That's what I was wondering about too, yeah.
Yeah, like when like Johnny Roundtrip hit his 500th home run, that was a big deal for me just because not because other players hadn't hit 500 before, but it's because I love that guy. So like individual player
That
success,
one that
I think
one
that's probably the biggest one. And I'll also tell you because like for a long time I was in like 19 leagues, right? And so I didn't have the player attachment to all of them, but I would have if you would have been like, okay, Cravar Cranston had his, hit 400 wins, which he did, but I didn't, wasn't paying as much attention. But if
yeah.
I saw that happening, I would have been much more attentive.
MLB is so good about their stats and being able to pull up. Yeah. He's now the 10th, this is the first
10th all
time it's
time.
happened in 17 years. This is the 10th best.
Yep.
I would love to do that. I
Yep.
think you're right. That's what I think about. I think about there's World Series wins, there's players that you like. When I look at other people's histories, I mean, I'm looking at we've got the chart of your places, which I think is good because then that's the
I
that,
look at their timelines. I like to look at
you
it
look at
year
their
by year
timeline.
too. Yeah.
I think about the first places versus their last places because of
Oh, for
the
sure. You look
rankings.
at their arc.
Yeah, you look at
See how
their art.
consistent they are. If their
Less
highest,
consistency is the one that I would say we don't have a measure. I think I'd like to pull like uh 500 seasons in a row. Um, Consistency of a team, right? Would be. I mean, we
yep,
were just talking about the MLB playoffs, like how easy it is to get. We know just baseball in general how easy it is to get bounced out of the playoffs.
yep.
Um, and then it feels like I don't know if you're only paying attention to rings. Does that mean it's a failure of a season if you had a great season and you get bounced?
No, definitely not. I mean, you're hanging banners for division championships, right?
Yep.
Yep. So like that, I think, yeah, all that's important. I mean, ultimately, baseball fans are numbers driven people. And so
Yep.
like those successes can be individual team, you know, they can be milestone streaks. It, yeah, just anything like that, like big round numbers, and
You've
first place
got.
finishes.
You said you had 19 teams. You don't now. Like
No, I have
pretty
12.
hard. You can't win them all at once. But like when you're checking in the morning or whatever else, I don't know if you're like me. Like you're checking in like your most recent wins for everybody.
Yeah.
Like yeah,
Yeah. I go through every team and then I have different things that I do depending on the time of the year it is for each team. But that's why I got so many teams is because like I play the game a lot, so I always want something to be happening. And so having that many teams, I always got somebody in preseason, postseason, drafting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's
having
why I
somebody
like
at
it.
different times. Yeah,
Yep.
that's another one that we hadn't talked about. But draft success. I
I
guess
don't
that's
know how
cool.
you'd measure that autonomously, but yeah, that would be a
What do they
good
do
one.
in real life? Yeah, I guess they don't.
They don't really do it like well, I mean they do it, but it's not like such a big deal that everybody follows it. But draft success is an interesting one because, like, if you look at the draft history page, it'll show you right on there all your players, how many all-stars or whatever that they've gotten. And I know when I go back and look at draft lists, I judge other owners based on how well they
Really?
draft. Oh, for sure.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I gotta look into that more.
Yeah. I mean, TCL mainly, when I used to deep dive, it would be in TCL mostly. But now that I'm in a bunch of leagues where you're doing full league drafts, it's a lot easier to get real-time
Yeah, yeah.
information back.
I had never noticed on Baseball Reference. I was looking at the Mets because I couldn't remember there. I knew it had been a while since they'd gotten this far. But I had never seen the they have the top 24 players of all time. We should totally do something like that. But they
24
have
players for that team.
for that franchise, they have by WAR, they have ongoing photo things so they could swap them out. It's a pretty cool idea.
Dwight Goode's number one, right? He has one of the highest WARs of a pitcher ever.
Oh, for he had one season. No, it's career. I think he
Oh,
was third, which I was a little surprised at.
oh,
Um,
it's yeah. But his single season WAR, I know, is one of the
yeah,
highest ever. Um, who's no, we're gonna get way off track. I was gonna ask who's number one, but then I think I'm gonna be able to figure out. It's probably no, it wouldn't be
we're
somebody
ready.
like
We're ready running late here. We can here. We got to do our Mets history here. Piazza was on there. He was low. David Wright might have been
I was gonna
two.
say it was gonna be like Tom Seaver, but
Tom
that's not
Seaver.
gonna.
There you go. Tom Seaver was
Oh, it
one.
was Tom Seaver. Ha ha!
One. David Wright two. Dwight
Everybody
Gooden
watching.
three.
Let's see if they can do that on Between Two Sims. I don't think so. Tom Seaver, baby. I called it. I call you out, Jar. I want to see you figure out who's number one on the Astros all time. There you go. I was gonna say
Dude.
the Yankees, but everybody's gonna know what that one is.
So who else? Who else is in the Hall of Fame that goes in as a Met? Seaver,
Keith
but Wright
Hernandez.
Wright isn't, and Gooden isn't. Keith Hernandez
Keith
is he in the Hall
Hernandez.
of Fame?
Yeah, he has to be. Has to be.
Is he?
Gary Carter. Gary
Yeah,
Carter's
Carter
probably
is.
in as a Met, I would think, right?
Yeah, but I feel like we all
He
that's being a catcher. I feel like we all came around to believing Gary Carter's not as good as he was a hype machine for a while. Remember,
yeah.
like all of a sudden it was the Gary Carter. Yeah,
It, I remember while he was playing, people were like, "He's going to be the greatest of all time."
let's both
Uh,
come up with one other person that we're gonna look up after this to see if
oh,
they win the
besides
Met.
Daryl Strawberry, because I think that one's a given. Um, I'm trying to think of a 1970s Met, like Jerry Koosman type. But I mean, he didn't play there long enough. But
It's gonna be
Koosman's a good one.
freaking obvious.
Uh,
Beltran, is he in?
yeah, Beltran played for every team. I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know who he would have to go in with a mixed hat, a medley hat.
Bob Ojeda. No, all right, I'm gonna give up here.
Yeah, I mean, it's
David
hard for
Cohn?
me,
No, David Cohn.
David Cohn.
He
It's
didn't.
hard for me to think about the Mets and not instantly go to 1986.
Yeah.
It's just like that's like the team. But then like they had that Subway series, and who is the? I mean, Piazza obviously was.
Yeah. I was actually
Beltran was on
thinking
that team, wasn't he?
we should wrap this one up, but I was thinking because I thought I used to hate the Mets. As a Dodger fan, I used to hate the Mets, but then they just hadn't been that good for that long, and I thought that I'd gotten over it. And then when I heard
Until
that
this
they
year.
got moved on, I was like a little irritated thinking about the Mets again. So apparently it's still in there.
Well, at
Mets
least
and Braves, I still got some.
you're rooting for the Brewers.
I do not have anything against the Brewers. But anyway, that's
No,
it.
no.
We were all over the place, whatever.
Uh,
If you have ideas, if people have ideas, you're getting a weekly report on what happened with your teams this week.
there you go. That's
You
the
got
homework.
ideas. Talk to us about it. We'll see what we can do.
The weekly report for you as an owner, right? Not for your teams, but for you as an owner, right? That's how you're thinking about it?
Either way, like if you want it, what would you want? If you were getting an email each week that's like your digest of what happened with your franchise,
Yeah, yeah,
what would
that's what
you
I meant.
be interested in knowing?
Um, Yeah, please give us that feedback because that will be awesome. Everybody would really love a weekly digest. So uh, make your voice known. Where do you want them to tell you?
Uh, in the comments to this video, you can say something. You can email
Last
me
last time I did
testing
this, I
clone,
said, post something
testing
and did
clone
you
at
see
BaseHit.
this? And it never got posted. And so then we never got any comments. So I'm trying to say, like, let's funnel them somewhere.
Wait, what?
Suggestions?
What never got posted?
When I was like, we need to get a discussion going about this. Now I'm forgetting what the topic
Oh,
was.
I don't know. Okay,
Yeah,
suggestions. That's a good idea. Put
suggestions.
a reminder on the forums. Here we go,
Yeah.
and on Discord.
All right. So give us some suggestions so that the weekly digest can be as awesome as we're making it out to be in our heads right now.
Sounds good.
Um, all right. All right. With that, this is another week in base hit. Thanks for indulging the Mets talk. I don't know why we're talking about them to beat the Brewers, and I'll never forgive them for that. Also, Jesse Winker, not a good person, another garbage human like the Baseball Writers Association. Till next week, we are out of here.